I'm out in the garden this morning and I had some onions ready to pick. So I thought I'd give you guys a quick garden tour of where things are at now. We just finished July, so today's actually August 1st that I'm filming, and I'll try to post this in the next day or two. So let's see what's going on in the garden, how everything did. Okay, so this is the first bed that I planted when I was redoing this bed. This is the bed that has the hardware cloth underneath to protect it from voles and gophers. And nothing has gotten into this bed at all, which is amazing. So here we have been harvesting off of this for, I think, 2 months now. This has been very good lettuce. It's been really nice. It's a butter crunch lettuce. Here is my row of white onions. None of these have fallen over yet, so they're still growing, which is good. And then I have some soft neck garlic, I think California garlic. And then today I had harvested a few of my yellow onions because they had fallen over, and that's what you saw at the beginning there, some yellow and some red. Another row of California garlic there, and then my row of red onions. So all of those seem to be doing really well. Then we have the Swiss chard and kale for the rabbits. It's getting picked through pretty heavily because I'm feeding the rabbits out of this every night almost. They're getting some of my butter crunch, and then down here in a little bit you'll see I also have some romaine, and so they're getting some of that too because there's actually more than we're able to eat. So they're getting a little bit more this year than they have in the past. So the aphid have been a problem. They almost always attack my kale. They seem to leave the Swiss chard alone, but they love the kale. I think it's that color, because this year I did Brussels sprouts. And they really love that. And the color of the leaves is very similar. And the aphids seem to really like that. So I'm not sure if it's the color of the plant or if it's just because I think they're both brassicas. So maybe that's it. So I still have to figure that out. You can see the damage that it's doing. So we'll see if it makes it. I need to get some water and try to get rid of these guys. And I think I have some neem oil I need to get on there. I just haven't had a chance to do that. So back here, I had planted 2 rows of carrots, and I'll put the name of what was in this row and what was in this row, what was supposed to come up in those 2 rows. These 2 were some smaller variety carrots because this bed's not very deep. I didn't think a full-size carrot was going to grow there, so I didn't bother planting. None of these 4 rows came up. So just a week ago or so, I put in more onions because I had a whole bunch of them. And so I think these are all reds. But as you can see, some of them are already coming up and doing good. I'm hoping that they will be big enough for harvest before we get hit with really hard frost. But onions are usually pretty hardy. I think they can handle the first couple light frosts that we get, but we'll just have to see. So that was the Brussels sprout that I started indoors in February-ish. And then I did a direct sowing of some more Brussels sprouts. And there's 2 that came up. So this guy and this guy. And volunteer dill decided to plant itself right there. And then as you can see, these are a bunch of what's going to now be coriander was cilantro, but they've already got their seeds on. And then this mint was like 3 plants that I transplanted from the bed right next to it because it was like on the edge. And I'll show that to you in a minute because there's still a couple there that I missed. Trying to get them in a bed versus in the pathway or almost in the pathway. So they are thriving there. They really took off after that. And here was supposed to be something. I think this whole row was the romaine lettuce that you see here. but it didn't come up. So I filled in the same time I planted those other onions like a week ago. I planted some more here, and those are starting to come up. And so that's the romaine, some more volunteer cilantro that has bolted. And then I will put the name of what I had planted in this row and this row on the screen. Now there is more onions in there. So I basically, when I realized that a lot of stuff didn't come up, as soon as I had the chance to, I cleaned up the weeds, I weeded the area, and then I got some onions in there since I had so many onions. This is my row of beets, which seem to be doing really well. And then I have a nasturtium, which is so pretty. This is the first time I've done a nasturtium. They're so pretty. And this is an annual huckleberry bush. There's actually 2 bushes here. And I started these indoors, I think. I'll have to check. I can't remember if these were transplants. I'm pretty sure those were transplants, because the nasturtium I started in, there was 2 nasturtiums. But I lost one when we had that bad frost. We had a really late frost this spring in June, the beginning of June, I think. And it decimated a lot of people's gardens. Thankfully, what I had out here for the most part wasn't super sensitive to the cold. And I got these covered. The first nasturtium, I lost the one. And this one seemed like it was still alive. So I just pruned off the dead portions of it. I don't know if that helped. I didn't do that to the other one. It looked a lot further gone. So I just didn't do anything to it. But this one survived and bounced back really, really well. As you can see, it's doing beautifully. And of course you can see there's more cilantro that bolted in the back. This is the first time I've ever done huckleberries, and this is a variety I got from Baker Creek, and we've got berries. So I'm really excited because this thing looks to be loaded. There's lots of flowers, and where the flowers have dropped off, there is a lot of berries. And go from the, oh, here's even more berries, and they're getting big too. So I'm really excited about that. So these guys are doing really good. You can tell they're quite tall now. You see that tall top one there is pretty tall. Next to that, we have some more butter crunch in this row, and this one is romaine. It's a different variety of romaine than the other one. As you can, I think this one's called baby romaine because it's really small compared to the other one. And I'll go around the corner to get what was behind the huckleberries here in just a minute. This one is yellow dock, and which is a medicinal herb. So I had started that indoors, and so this is transplant. There's a volunteer dill, more dill. This is supposed to be my fennel, I think. I'll check my notes. It looks just like dill, so I'm not sure if the fennel died, because I did put fennel in here, so I'm not really sure. And then of course you have thyme. Looks like I need to harvest some. It's already starting to flower. And there's more thyme back there. And then of course you can see the parsley here. And of course more dill. I like dill, so I don't mind it reseeding itself. There's even more down here in the section of the bed that I didn't get protected. And I will check my notes. I think that was something I planted, but I don't remember what it was. That right there. This is a weed. That. I'll put the name of it up in the top. But I know I planted something else in that row, and I just can't remember what it was. So I will check my notes and then put that at the bottom of the screen. So now over here, this is my hollyhock. And this is its first year, so that's why it's not blooming. It's putting all of its energy into the leaf growth and roots. So I'll mark that before winter, before it dies off completely. I'll put a little post in there to mark it so that I don't accidentally pull it or disturb it or anything, and make sure it'll come up next year. And then this one, I'll double check, but I believe this one was a delphinium. I'll double check. I could be way off. I'm trying to pull this off memory, and I didn't check my notes right beforehand. So, but I think that's the delphinium. I think I had another hollyhock here, and I think I either accidentally pulled it up or it died, or didn't. Yeah, or it died, because I think I had planted those indoors before. I started them inside. And this is where that other one was. I'm not sure. I'm going to be very embarrassed if this ends up being a weed, but we'll check. Oh, well, if it is. And I think I had echinacea planted here, and I think I either accidentally pulled it or it didn't come up. I think that one I direct sowed. So that was a little disappointing that my echinacea didn't come up. And then I don't think I had anything else planted there. And then that's where the other nasturtium was. And so I haven't put anything in there. I probably could put a couple more onions in there. But at this point, I have probably more onions that we're going to go through. These are not very long storing onions, so we're going to have to keep a close eye on them and make sure we're using them pretty regularly. And then when they start going bad, what I'll do is just dry them all out, chop them up, dry them in the dehydrator, and then put them in the blender and make onion powder so that I don't lose them all. Real quick to finish this row up, what I ended up doing, I didn't finish this row. Remember the hardware cloth, I wasn't able to finish it. I ran out of hardware cloth. So for this year, this is what this bed is. And I didn't put anything in here until like a couple weeks ago. And I was trying to get as many onions in as possible. My gophers and or voles really liked onions. So this is kind of a test. I haven't seen a whole lot of activity. I did catch a vole with a vole trap. So I'm hoping we just don't have that much activity this year. That they got killed off and there's just not the population this year. But we will see. These onions are still pretty small. They didn't seem to take them. Was it the year before last? They ate like almost every single one of them. I finally pulled the last couple before they got ate, but they were only like, that big. So I felt really cheated. So we'll see. I had 300 onion sets because they were on sale. So my husband wanted one of each color. So he just grabbed a packet of each. Well, there was 100 in each pack. So we got a lot of onions. So we're going to see how they do this year, even though this section is not protected. More volunteer dill. And as you can see, there's a couple more over there. But the rest of this, you can see the little holes that I made. Those are all onions in this section, all the way down. And there's whites, reds, and yellows in here. I didn't really keep them separated. And it looks like my leaves are falling in the holes. And there's some coming up. I gotta get all these leaves out. Anyway, a little more. Well, hopefully they'll be hardy enough, but the rest of them will come up, even if I don't get the leaf off of them. All right, now this bed, I was not going to do anything in it, but then I couldn't help myself. I needed to plant more stuff. I ran out of room in that bed and didn't have everything planted. Like, I felt like I hadn't put anything in the garden yet, really, with just that bed. So I had to do this bed. Now, there is a lot of weeds in here. I haven't weeded this bed for a few weeks, so it's gotten a little overgrown. But there's so many volunteers in here, you almost can't really tell that it's weeds. It just looks like I had a ton of volunteers. So, or at least that's what I'm going to go with. So here we have garlic. And actually, I'm going to go down the other side because most of the garlic is on this side. So I have a row of garlic here. I don't remember oh, I think this was supposed to be dwarf marigold here, and it never came up. But this guy, which is a bachelor button, it's all one plant. It's odd because it looks like two, but it was one plant, and it had popped up in the middle of my pathway over there, which I still need to get covered back up. So I popped it over here, transplanted it. It did not like the transplant very well, but it is bouncing back. This guy doesn't look too great, this part of it, but that guy's doing pretty good. And this, my only Johnny jump up that came up on this row. You can see him there. All right, and then amongst the weeds, there is garlic here. That was my son's columbine that he planted last year. And so this is the year that it was blooming. So I'm going to save some seeds from that. As you can see, the seed pods are ready. And there's still a couple more flowers. It's still flowering. It's really pretty. And then more garlic. And then this one is I think it said autumn sunflower. So those are further behind. There's not really even a bud ready yet on those. So I'm wondering if they get taller or something. I will check my notes. I haven't weeded this. This looks pretty much like it's all weeds, but I need to double check because I think, oh, that might be the plant. I will check my notes and see what I planted in here, and we'll see if that's it. So that does not look like most of the weeds that are in here. So I'm going to check my notes. I'll put the name of what was supposed to be in there, and I will ID that plant and see if that was what I planted there. More garlic and, of course, lots of weeds. Sorry I didn't have a chance to get this cleaned up. I really wanted to get a tour done. This had something planted in it, but I haven't weeded it yet, and I don't know if I can see anything in there. And the same with this one. So there's two little rows here. I will check what was planted in there, and then I'll check and see if anything came up. Oh, there's something here. I don't know what that is though. So it might have come up. I'll check and see what that is and compare it to what I planted. Oh, there's something here too. Maybe that might be mullein. I don't know, but that one's mullein. So we'll see. I'll check and see. Got some nice, beautiful volunteer oats. Looks like more garlic with the weeds. And then this is my cherry chocolate sunflower. The first stand of them. So that guy's getting ready to open. And that far one over there is open, but it's pointed away from the camera right now. But I got a couple of good pictures of it, so I'll put that up on the screen. Now here, I did plant the marigolds. So there's two dwarf marigolds right there. And of course you can see all of the calendula all over the place. So all of this here is volunteer. This is where they were last year, and they just reseeded themselves, which is fine. I love calendula. It's so pretty. It's a huge, beautiful pop of color in the garden. So those are all there. I'm not sure. I did plant calendula. That's the one I planted down there. So, but I haven't weeded this section. There's a bed here. I got to check and see what was supposed to be there. I thought maybe it was my chamomile, because I did plant chamomile, because that looks like chamomile, but when I ID'd it, it said it was stinky chamomile, which I believe it did stink when I smelled it. So I think that's just the weed. I don't think that's what I planted, but I will check and see what I planted in that row and in that row, and I'll check and see, because I don't see anything but weeds and calendula growing in those two. And then this one, I'll put up on the screen what it was, and I'm not seeing anything in there other than weeds. So I will do a really much closer check. More bachelor button volunteers. And then around here somewhere, I may have missed them. Oh, here was this is where my mint was. And I missed one when I transplanted them. So as you can see, they're kind of in the walkway on the edge. So those will eventually get moved. I may just pull those because there's plenty over there that's well established. I'll have tons because they kind of take over. More cilantro. Okay, so all of those, and I don't think whatever was in here didn't come up. That looks like it's just grass. So I'll check that one. I did plant calendula in here, and that's what came up. It's doing really good, and I like that this one's a really dark orange. I like that color. I have some oranges in the other ones too, but they're mostly yellow and they're lighter oranges. I liked how dark these ones were. And this one, I don't know what was planted there. I will check my notes. Oh, that might be it. I will check my notes and see what that's supposed to be and see if that's it. Those little white flowers. That might be what I planted there. We'll see. I thought that was cilantro at first, but that is, well, maybe it is cilantro. I've never had cilantro over here, so it's kind of odd to have it over here. More garlic, more Johnny Jump Ups. They're so cute, and they're tiny. I didn't realize they were going to be so tiny. And then I will put a list of all the rows that were here. As you can see, nothing came up, or I didn't see it. I had 2 cantaloupes in here. So that's what, there was like only 2 spaces here. And then there was like 2 rows of something right here that didn't come up. I'll put those names on the screen. But what is here now is more onions. As you can see, all the little round holes. So those are onions. And if you are wondering what that is supposed to be a vole gopher repellent. When the sun hits it, it is solar. It's really, really old, and it's been left out for a few years. But when the sun hits it, it makes a really annoying noise. And it penetrates down into the ground. So it's supposed to repel them. So I figured this would be a good place for the onions, and maybe we wouldn't get any voles and gophers. I did have a trap set because I tried to put an onion over here, and there was a tunnel there, so I stuck a trap in there, and I caught one later that day. I set the trap in the morning, early morning, and I had one by evening when I did evening chores. So, and he was big for a vole. So that's why I'm thinking he was a gopher. But he was a pretty big boy and very fat. Haven't caught anything. It's been I reset the trap and put it back in the hole, but it seems like they have backfilled it. So whatever else is in here, if there was another one, has backfilled it, I think. So I'm not really sure. I went ahead and pulled it out. Nothing was caught for like almost a week. So I just pulled it out. And then here at the end is my other cherry chocolate ones, and oh my gosh, this is the first time I've seen it. I walked right by it and didn't even look, but she bloomed. She opened up. Look how pretty that is. Look at that. It's just gorgeous. Oh, I'm so excited. Those are so pretty. Oh, so pretty. I will be coming back and taking some pictures because that's gorgeous. Okay. Over here, my strawberries didn't do very great this year. Something seemed to attack them. In fact, one of the culprits that I think are these black beetles. So, plus I had a little bit of watering issue. Water wasn't getting through the mulch. I had a pretty heavy mulch on here and I wasn't watering enough. So I have to do like a flood watering as opposed to the sprinkler that I have over there, which is kind of like a rainwater. It doesn't put out a whole lot of water, so I'd have to like run it almost all day to get the amount of water it needs in there. So strawberries did okay. I mean, they tasted really good. We got some strawberries off, but I was only getting about a handful, like a literal handful of strawberries every morning or so. And we would eat, we would split them between the 5 of us and have strawberries with our breakfast or something. Hula berries didn't really do very good, and I had a watering issue with them too because their mulch was really heavy as well, despite the fact that there's a lot of grass in there. But I didn't sift these very well. They were transplants from over here, which there are some in there. If you look, you can see there's more hula berries in here that I need to get transplanted, and that's what this other one is for, and I need to get some more because that's not going to be enough. They're really sweet, but they didn't, there was a ton on here, but then they all died. And I think it was either I just couldn't keep them watered well enough, wasn't checking on them enough, and they just withered. So we'll try to do better next year, because most of these, and bugs were eating them too. So a lot of these either dried up and or the bugs got them. And I think there was a couple of days, especially on the really hot days, I didn't make it out here. And I think the bugs were having a heyday with it. No blueberries this year. There's 1, 2, there's 3. And then the 4th one is right there. They're really tiny and the grass is taking over again. I had this all cardboarded and wood chipped, but that area has so much of the creeping grass that it likes mulch, so it comes in regardless eventually. And I think that area I was trying to be as sparse as I could with the mulch wood chips because we didn't have very much and I was trying to get it spread everywhere. I should have just went heavy. Just always go heavy with the mulch. So I'm not sure if these guys are going to stay here any longer or if I'm going to try to move them over with my perennial section of the garden that I'm trying to get going, which is where our fruit trees, we've only got one, we've lost 13, but I have 1 pear hanging in there, and then I planted my rose bush over there. I'll show you a picture of that here. I'm not going to go over there today for today's garden tour because this is just the annual garden for the most part, except for this little berry patch here. In the high tunnel, we've got our tomatoes. They're all doing good. They're about, it seems like they're a little behind because we're, August 1st is the day I'm filming this. And they seem to be a little bit behind. I mean, there's lots of flowers, and I know I saw a tomato on, there they are. There's some tomatoes on that one. So there are some tomatoes. Volunteer bachelor buttons. I'm not sure how those got in here. I never planted any in here. Here's another tomato. And more bachelor buttons. The tomatoes are all doing fine. I think they slowed down when we had the real cold snap because they were already out here, but they were in the high tunnel. So we didn't have any frost damage, but it did get cold. So I think that just kind of stunted them for a little while. But when we got hot, we hit 100 for a few days and they seemed to really thrive there. This is my jalapeno that I overwintered, and it just now has a flower on it. There's a couple more up there. And I thought it was gonna die. It did not seem to like the transplant back out here. Same with that pepperoncini, still doesn't look like it's happy. This one's doing a lot better. This is the other pepperoncini. It was a much taller one. But it actually has a ton of new growth, and it now has flowers on it, and I can see a whole bunch of buds. So we might actually get some pepperoncinis on here if we don't hit a frost too early. The last tomato plant. So I had 1, 2, 3, I think there's technically 2 in here. So 4, 5, 6, and 7. So I ended up with 7 tomato plants, 2 of which are together. And I think, yeah, that's that one. There's 2 plants in there. Okay, then I got remember I planted all of those cayenne pepper plants. 3 of them sprouted, and that's that one, and that one. So I got those transplanted out here. So they're still really, really small, because the first round of seeding, they didn't germinate. So I tried some different seeds, and those germinated, but their germination rate was really low, because I planted, I think 9, but I'll have to look. I don't remember. And only 3 sprouted, so we'll see. And then these are my 2 bell pepper plants. This one's had a bell pepper on it for a while, but that's as big as it has gotten. And I haven't seen any more flower. Oh, now I'm seeing some flowers. Oh, good. Maybe he's actually gonna give me some more. And this one's finally got some flowers. The one pepper it had is not doing great. So I don't know what happened with that. It was doing fine, but smaller than the other one. And then all of a sudden it went soft. But I see some more blossoms on there. So that gives me a little bit of hope that I might actually get some bell peppers off of these. Because at first I was like, it's only going to be 2 bell peppers for 2 plants, and then the one died. So I'm like, 1 bell pepper for 2 plants? That's not cool. So here, I need to transplant these. These were 4 out of all of the onions that I planted from seed. 4 of them have survived, and I've been kind of nursing them along out here. And then this is my rosemary that I need to get replanted, but it's so tiny I didn't want to disturb it. So we'll see. I'll have to figure out when I'm going to replant that. All right, so here are my mammoth sunflowers, and then I got a couple more back there, a couple more here, and a few here. So those will be a little while before they bloom. And I did allow this mullein to go ahead and grow, because it's a 2nd-year mullein, and I do not have any mullein petals saved. So I'm going to let this one fully bolt and harvest some petals from that, so that I have some of those on hand. And here we have peas. Man, I picked these yesterday morning, and it looks like I either missed a bunch or they grew really fast overnight. So they're not liking the heat so much. That's why they are looking a little yellow, but they're still producing. So they're doing okay. And then the rest of the peas are over here. Here are my cucumbers. So these are just fresh eating cucumbers. They're still very tiny. So I'm hoping they will get some growth on them and produce some fruit before we have frost, because they're going to die as soon as we get a frost. Not all of my peas came up, so these are a 2nd planting of peas. And then I did a couple over here as well. I had 2 varieties of zucchini, trying to find one that would climb, which is why I have it over here. And I was not successful finding one that climbed. So this is one variety, and it's still pretty small. This other variety, I have 3 plants here, is doing quite well, and But as you can see, they are the bushing variety, not the climbing variety. So I got to do some more research and probably order the seeds instead of trying to pick them out from the grocery store. So I am having a problem with blossom end rot. I need to look up and see what to do with that because I've never had to deal with that before. So I have to figure out what I need to do to mitigate that. And this is not a good place for these because of the wire, the hardware cloth. It needs to be for something that's going to grow upright, which is what I normally plant here is cucumbers and green beans, which I do have green beans, and I saw there's the first flowers. So those will start producing pretty soon. But they're still not fully enclosing the hoop yet, but it's only the end of July and we had a really cold spring. So, and I didn't get these out very early either. These were kind of a last minute. I wasn't gonna plant any because I wanted this whole archway to be full of climbing zucchini. But when I couldn't for sure find one that was climbing, I knew these were potentially bushing ones. I didn't want to fill the whole thing up with bushing zucchini. Because as it is, just these three in this one section are getting a little tight. There's only one over here. So I think that is it for the garden. I didn't plant anything at the beginning of these rows. Well, hello, birdie. Hi. A little friend coming out to pick up something out of my garden. I'll have to look you up and see what kind of a bird you are. All right, one last thing is my potatoes. As you can see, they don't look very happy. That is, I believe, I'm not super experienced with potatoes, but I'm pretty sure this just means it's ready because the soil was moist when I checked it the other day. It's getting dry now, but it's moist in there. You go down a little bit. So I know it's not lack of water, but I think it's just time to pull these out. So hopefully I'll be able to get that done here in the next day or two, and I'll film that and show you guys the potato harvest from these two big barrels. So I'm hoping there'll be lots of potatoes in there. So we'll just have to find out if this worked real well or not. This is the first time I've done this in these barrels. I think I tried it one other time, but I never added soil into it, so I never killed them, and we had a very scanty harvest. So we'll see how these guys do, and that video will be out probably in a week or two. We'll see when I can get that up. Well, that's it for today's garden tour. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye. Got a pretty flower. Yeah. Can you say calendula? That's the name of that flower. Don't press, okay? Be gentle.